Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CDL podcast channel. In this episode today, we are going to be talking about a little bit of roster news. Surprisingly, we have a little bit more come through, even though week one of Major 3 just wrapped up. Going to get some of Brock's thoughts on the previous roster changes that he didn't have a chance to talk about in the last pod when he was out of town. And then going to make our predictions for matches per usual coming up this next weekend. If you guys enjoy this one, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Drop a follow, drop a 5-star review on the audio platforms. Also forgot to mention on the last pod, we hit 1,300 subs and we kind of crushed right past that, and we're on the way to 1,400 subs. So we appreciate all your support as always, hitting that milestone. It isn't one of those round numbers that you look for like 100 and then 500 then 1,000, but it is still a big milestone. We appreciate that. So Brock's back this week. Brock, how you doing today?
Oh, doing pretty good, Good old Monday. The part-timer is back. I've seen in the comments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back. We got to get your thoughts on all these roster changes too.
Yeah. Back, warm weather in Wisconsin. Love that. And, excited to do the podcast again.
It's beautiful. It's golfing weather. It's Bucks playoff weather. We got a game on Sunday. I'm probably going to head down there. Everybody that listens to the pod knows I never pre-buy tickets for games, but I somehow find myself if the Bucks have 3 home games in a playoff series, I always find myself at 2 of them at least. I somehow always find my way to half the Bucks playoff games or more.
Yeah.
It's an hour and a half drive for me, so it's not too terrible. But I just oh shoot, it's game 5. We're tied 2-2. Screw it, I'm going. And since it's a Sunday, it's going to be an afternoon game. It's going to be perfect. And right now in Wisconsin, people don't know a lot about Milwaukee, but Milwaukee in summertime to me is one of my favorite places on earth. The weather's always just beautiful. You're on the lake, so it's a little cooler. It's a perfect 75, 80 degrees and cool all the time throughout May and June. It's the best place ever.
Factual.
All right, Brock, let's talk. I want to get your thoughts on some of the roster moves. I think first let's start with the new maps. How do we think they're looking? How are they playing? Then we'll talk about the one roster rumor that I think we're both going to be very hyped about that came out today. And then we'll get your thoughts on some of those older ones. So first, new maps, 6-star and Vista. I think you probably would feel the same, but I'm a little bit more knowledgeable in terms of Vista just because I've played it a bit more than I have 6-star. And I also, for playing wise, I think I enjoy Vista more for hardpoint specifically because it's just super fast. And I don't know, I think you feel the same way. Just because the map's faster doesn't mean it's actually a better map, but it does a lot of times feel more fun to play. Just because you're getting lots of engagements. It's fast paced, kind of like Rio. It feels fun to play, kind of like we joked about Bow Cage. Bow Cage probably when you objectively look at it, not the greatest map, but it's super fun to play because you're just going 50 and 40 and just running at people. And that's just an enjoyable thing to play when you're playing ranked play.
Yep, I agree. Vista is pretty good. Like I said, Rio type small map, lots of engagements.
Makes it fun to watch too.
Yeah, I like the 2 maps that are watchable more than the old ones that got out. Yeah. And 6-star, to me, I like the map, but you gotta rotate pretty early, and
Yeah, and that Pool Hill is something's got to change.
Yeah, Pool Hill is egregious. You might as well just sit back there, basically like you do on Skid Row P2. Yeah,
I will say though, once again, 6-star with the symmetry of the map and the visuals and the way that it can be a little faster. And I do think, I don't know, I do think it's better, obviously, than Invasion HP, which it replaces in Skid Row. I don't know, Skid Row, it could be up in the air. I actually didn't hate Skid Row, but I do think 6-star and Vista are very good additions to the map pool. And also, 6-star SD would have to be the worst S&D map of all time for me to not enjoy replacing it over Terminal, because Terminal S&D was horrible to play, horrible to watch, everything.
Yep. It's nice to see some fresh maps in, to be honest.
And that indestructible door though on 6-star, that's got to go. What is that?
Yeah.
I hadn't played 6-star up until the point where they were playing it in the CDL. So when I saw it being played, I'm like, okay, cool, let's watch this. Check out the map. And then I think it was the first time I saw it, was it Fellow? I can't remember who it was, but somebody was standing behind it, and I was I saw him and I was oh, he's gonna go just wallbang him out the door, and he was standing there. I was why is he just standing there? And then it was Fame. Fame wasn't shooting him, and I was what's going on? And I think it was Merc or whoever was casting Chance was it's an indestructible door, and I was well, that's a terrible feature on the map because it's literally right outside that hill.
Yeah.
You can just like stand there and call out for your teammates, and they can't shoot you. Then like when they're not looking, you can just peek the door open quick, shoot them, and then just close it again. That is like the worst. That door's got to go. They either have
Yeah.
to just like remove that door or make it just a normal door. Preferably just take out the door.
Yep. But I'm not
That's unacceptable.
surprised. It's always something with the map and Activision.
That's insane. But yeah, overall, new maps in general, I would say big W over the ones they replaced.
Yep.
Let's talk about the roster moves that have already happened that we didn't really get a chance to hear your thoughts on before we go into the newer one we just heard of today. So real quickly, you don't have to spend a ton of time on it, but first thing, let's talk about Beans and Pentagram to Boston. Kind of some odd moves. My general thoughts on it from last week were basically like a roster change obviously had to happen. I mean, this team is literally in dead last place.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really think there was an obvious person to drop. Sounds like the consensus was Snoopy, which kind of led to the Censor and Slasher beef, which I don't know. I've always been a Doug fan, but he's like looks bad in this whole situation. I don't know. He's like kind of coming off like just like a jerk in this whole situation. Like
Mm-hmm.
he like comes off like very, I mean, Doug has always had a lot of confidence, but he comes off really cocky and like, I know all, like, I know exactly what should be done. I know what makes a good player. And it's like, sure, he can like maybe talk off like that and get away with it when he's talking to challengers players who don't have like experience, but like he's talking like this to Slasher, who A is a better player than Doug.
Yep.
B has had a far better career than Doug. And C is on the team. So Slasher has much more knowledge of what's going on within the team, regardless of how much scrims Doug claims to have watched. He's not playing. Slasher
Mm-hmm.
knows way more what's going on in the team than Doug does. Because let's face it, he's playing in the scrims. He may not be watching them like Doug claims to, but actually he's probably watching back the scrims and playing them. So he just has way more knowledge of the situation than Doug does. So I don't know. Doug in this whole situation has actually made me less of a fan. He's coming off like just odd in the whole situation.
Yeah, it's because he so-called found Snoopy, and gotta protect his boy, I guess.
But it's Boston is getting into dangerous territory because what do we say? Like going into the offseason, they were kind of viewed as like an org that people would want to play for. Like they pay well, they seem to support their players well. Like everybody seems to talk highly of the organization. And now like they're in danger of kind of ruining that reputation going forward because like they're setting a precedent that players do not like.
Mm-hmm.
Like they are saying all three of our players, Priesta, Asim, and Slasher, wanted to drop Snoopy because he's rotating to the wrong hills. He doesn't know spawns. He's just like basically not playing the game correctly, blacking out in game. And they all said, we want to drop him and pick somebody else up. And management said, no, we're not doing that. We're dropping two of you and picking up two other players. And we're not listening to the players, which sets a bad precedent. Like you're going to feel like you may not be safe on this team and like what you say might not go and management's just going to override you. So it's scary for the future of Boston and how players will view playing for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agreed.
But yeah, thoughts on Beans and Pentagram? I don't know. Just like, I know maybe it isn't the biggest upgrade, but I'm just curious if you think like they're going to improve. Obviously, we have a little bit of data on them. They did lose to Miami, which is rough.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, something had to change, but I do not mind Beans, being back as he can shoot, and Pentagram has, from what I watched this weekend, didn't do too bad.
Yeah. Pentagram has deserved at least a chance in the league for quite some time. It just sucks for him, and it's weird just because he's like legit replacing arguably their best player at the time. Now, granted, Asim wasn't like some superstar, like putting up huge numbers, like making all the plays, but like he was a pretty decent player, and Pentagram's replacing him. And Asim is a tough role to fill because Asim is always doing so much of the dirty work.
Yeah, so like I said, they lost to Miami, so basically, still dead last. Things can only go up, I would hope, from here.
Yeah. And then Brock, your boy Arcitys was replaced. They did get a win in their first match. That's 0-4 in for Arcitys. He didn't really have the best match. He did drop a 0.8, and he looked okay. But, I mean, I don't really know that we even need to get too much of your thoughts on this one. I'm assuming you're pretty much going to say the same thing that I and the whole community says. It's like, okay, cool, good for him getting this shot, but I don't think it's going to just necessarily move the needle and make Surge some very good team.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to move the needle, but, it might bring some better vibes, maybe, that they didn't have before.
Yeah, there's just not much you can say. It's like, okay, cool for him to get a shot. Hopefully he plays well and earns himself a spot in the CDL going forward, but don't think it's going to make a huge impact on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Then probably like the biggest news, biggest roster move in my opinion that was made. Obviously, we already talked about like the Joe DeCease one because that happened so quickly.
Yep.
But Gunless and Standy to Rocker. Gunless didn't look bad in that first match against Faze, and once again, like they did go 0-2 this weekend. But we said, and at least I mentioned in the podcast, like coming into this weekend, it was going to be more about like can Rocker like hang with the teams, and like they did look competitive in the map 1 against Faze and decently competitive in the map 3. And then they kind of got slammed in the search and destroy. And then against New York, they were able to win a search and they kept both hard points on Karachi and Rio. They were just there with a chance to win it and weren't able to do so. Gunless was their best player in the first series and, had a 0.97 in the second. So, his first time back in the league playing against Faze in New York, he honestly looked pretty good. Standy, on the other hand, against New York, yikes. 0.6. Just overall thoughts on this roster, because I don't know if we talk too much about my thoughts, but I'm gonna think you're gonna have pretty much the same sentiment I did on this roster move.
I like the acquisition of Gunless, Slayer, like you said, did pretty good against the 2 top 4 teams in the league right now for just coming in. And Standy, didn't have the best, and maybe we got Vivid back.
The issue is like, I don't know if you saw this because it was like kind of fired off and like with all the news coming out, but they kept Awakening on the bench and they actually fully dropped Vivid.
Oh, I did not know that.
Which makes 0 sense to me. Like if you were going to keep one of them, I feel like Vivid is the one to keep because he was playing much better than Awakening and like it felt like a mistake already. So my thoughts on this roster change were Gunless. Absolutely. All this team was missing was Slaying out of the flex, and I think that they would pretty much lock themselves into the 5 and 6 slot.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought everything else was perfect. I would like to see it. Now, maybe if they make that change and something isn't clicking, then maybe you make another change. But in my opinion, Vivid should have stayed 100%. I don't think Standy's a bad player. I like Standy as a player. I think he belongs in the CDL. I just don't understand why he was inserted onto this team when I thought Vivid was completely fine and playing very, very good overall. I just thought they needed to make a one change for Awakening and see how it went from there.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea why Standy was put on this roster, and I think it's going to cost them. I think they're really going to miss Vivid. That was my thought. I like Gunless. Standy was questionable to me.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Vivid had like a 0.9 around 0.9 on the year for entry sub.
Yeah, and he's also like a very, very good third AR. And at the time that they dropped him, like a third AR was a pretty important thing because it was pulled out on a lot of maps. And also, it'd be very good if they had him still because with a lot more 2 sub maps coming in, like Vivid can be that faster player and let Lins get all the kills. And now you've got 2 slower subs in Lins and Standy, and just it doesn't look as good, especially because Gunless and accuracy can tend to be a little slower on the AR. And especially like accuracy is just slower in general, and Gunless, playing more for kills can tend to slow things down. Standy is a slower sub, and now like you might leave Lins out to dry, which is not what you want to do because these players should all be trying to set up Lins because he is the star of your team.
Agreed.
Speaking of Vivid, this isn't technically related to him, but Brock, the roster news or roster rumor dropped today that Vegas is looking to put Asim into the lineup for Purge. Absolutely fantastic move. I mean, I want to pull it up. I heard them talking about it on the flank and the reverse sweep. These Purge stats, if I can find them and like sort them, the Breaking Point website I haven't used as much lately, but if I can find this, it's like kind of insane.
I mean, Vegas should have been looking before this week.
Purge in his overall KD, can you guess what place he's in? Obviously, knowing there's 48 players in the league.
Oh, I'm gonna guess like 43.
He's 55. He's below players that aren't even active anymore.
Interesting.
He is the only players he is ahead of is GodRx, 04, who's played 1 series, Eric Boom, Pentagram, who's played 1 series, Cammy, and that's it.
Jeez.
He is below players like Awakening, Afro, Brezzy, Fellow, Accuracy, Journey, Standy, Kremp, Vivid, Asim, Who, Clay, Nasty. These are all the guys directly ahead of him. Arcitys, Assault. The only players he's better than are Pentagram, who's had 1 series, 04, who's had 1 series, so they could easily rise above him. Cammy, who he's the same as, who has had very limited series. Eric Boom, who we know was like historically bad, and then GodRx, who also was historically bad to start the year. He's 55th. I think I saw in like hardpoint damage per 10 or something. He was dead last in 60th. Yeah, Purge is only ahead of Afro in damage per 10. He's at 59th out of 60 qualified players. He's lower than GodRx in damage per 10.
That is not what you're gonna want from your,
Yeah.
your sub.
This team was like the 5th best team or 6th best team. Like they're like one of the best teams outside of our top 4.
Yeah, they're, like I said, 5th best team with him doing that.
So to me, even if this team, like if they do truly miss his comms so much and like whatever he brought to the team, like and they don't improve a ton, I still think this is an absolutely W move because Asim, while he's not going to be like a consistent 1.1, like putting up big time numbers, Asim is going to get damage in because he's going to play a lot faster.
Yep.
Purge was a decent search and destroy player. That's like the one thing he really had going for him. He was decent at times in search, but Asim's going to speed up, play faster, not play the hill as much as like Purge sometimes tends to corner, can't play the hill maybe a little bit. And like sometimes it's not bad to have a guy play in the hill, but also when you need him to bump off the hill and go kind of gap fill, get kills off the hill as somebody else fills it, like he didn't tend to do that all the time. And I don't know, like Purge, I think he showed signs of improvement for sure. Like he started the year really rough and he did start to improve, but we've said it the whole time. Like when this team plays other top teams, they just are not able to get it done because you can't have somebody who's 59th in the league in damage per 10 and 55th in KD when there's 48 active players. Like you just can't have somebody that's performing that terribly and expect to beat top teams consistently or even at all. So Asim being in here is a big time W. I will still say though, my preferred pick is still Vivid for that spot, and he's a complete free agent.
Yeah. Either or to me, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not upset with Asim by any means. Asim's still a very good pickup. Vivid's still my preferred because I think he's been a little bit better. I like Vivid a little more, and I think him and Nero have a little more chemistry. It'd be easier to insert him because they do have so much chemistry. But maybe that was their thought behind it. Vivid and Nero have played plenty together and haven't seen like crazy success. So maybe that was their thought process behind it, and I respect it. I think Asim's a fantastic player. I really do think that Vegas, if Asim can get sent into this lineup and sort things out, I think that this team could solidify themselves as our 5th best team. I know they did just lose to LA Thieves, who's kind of battling with them for that, but I think Vegas could separate themselves from the rest of the other 7 teams that are with them outside the top 4. I think Vegas could solidify themselves with Asim as our 5th best team.
Yeah, I fully agree. It's about time that, Vegas made a move.
The one thing I don't like, though, is why are you making this move now? Why did you not do it post Major 2 and give yourself 2 weeks of practice?
Yeah, I wish I knew. Wish I had the answer for that.
I mean, if it's one thing, if you just had full faith as a team in Purge, I gotta respect it. Like you're have full faith in the team you made. You see something that maybe we don't see in practice, and you have full faith in them. Okay, I respect the decision. But if you truly were this close to being able to move on from him, why would one match change that? Like I would have moved on from him right after the major, but I don't understand why one match changed it for them. Like they were obviously very close to moving on from him before if one match changed it.
Yeah.
But like,
An online
why would you not have
qualifier.
just made this? Yeah, why would you not make the move after Major 2 so you give yourself a couple weeks to practice with the new player and then start the stage with them? Now you're throwing Asim in. You're gonna have to practice for a couple days and then you get to play your next few matches. But like, you could have easily just thrown him in and given yourself 2 weeks and like really got things ironed out.
Agreed.
Weird move.
Should have made
I
it
like
like
move,
you
but
said
should have done it earlier.
before.
Yeah.
But on the bright side, at least they're making a move.
Yeah, 100%. At least they're making the move, but like, I don't understand why it took one match of online qualifiers and you're like, okay, yeah, we're ready to make the move now.
Yeah.
Like, then you should have been ready to make the move after Major 2 if you were this quick to do it after one bad series. Like, you had to expect another bad series was coming. I just don't understand.
Yep. They're just waiting.
I guess. All right, we did, talk about a little bit of the matches as we were going through the roster changes already, but let's just touch on maybe a few from the weekend before we jump into predictions. So this past weekend on Friday, I don't even really want to discuss the matches on Friday. I mean, we talked about the Faze Rocker one. Rocker was able to, keep the hard point a little close, then keep the control a little close, but got blown out in the respawns. Gunless was the shining star. Faze was typical Faze, just slamming everyone. And then the Vegas versus Gorillas match was a quick 3-0. I mean, dominated maps 2 and 3. Map 1 was a little bit close, but overall, on the side of Vegas, Geo was slamming. It was just super quick series. So I don't even really want to touch on Friday. Saturday, kind of the same thing. We saw Toronto speedrun LAG, not much to say there. I mean, we know who those two teams are at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Heretics beat Boston, kind of shocking there. I mean, Heretics Real. Shout out to Real. He had a big series. That's the one thing I do want to touch on with this one, Brock.
He did pretty 1.25 for the overall series.
Yeah, and he looked good. He was playing with some pace. He had 18,000 damage. On the side of Boston, Snoopy did have a little bit better series numbers wise. Beans with a nice 1.1 in his time back, and he was laying out the damage, almost 20,000 damage in his first series back.
He's shooting.
So overall, like some of the new players looking decent. Pentagram not the best series, but he was able to deal a little bit of damage, and just a big time series from Real. On the side of Miami, though, also it's like medals. Those struggles continue big time.
Yep. His struggles continue, but it looks like on the map they play more confident as a team since Real joined.
Yeah, Real looked really good. I guess the only other thing I want to touch on from Saturday, like I said, we don't have a ton to talk on the matches this week because it was a lot of like blowouts and results we expected, and we know who these teams are. The other thing I want to say is LAG. I know they're not going to make a roster change because of the fact that like they're just not going to pick anybody up with the way their org is, but like it's time to sub in Flames for Assault and just like try it. Like your team literally just looks abysmal online and looks like they can't win a match. Like you have Flames under contract, just throw him into the lineup and just like see what happens. Like your team ceiling is nothing currently, like a top 6 at the major, like you keep getting, but like you might as well throw in Flames because like Estriel, Fame, and Diamondcon have their pop-off series, and if Flames is a little more talented than Assault and can have his pop-offs, you never know. Like maybe you can just consistently keep getting top 6 and just win a couple more online matches and squeak into champs, because that's really all your goal is. If you're LAG, you're just trying to squeak into champs.
Yeah, they have literally nothing to lose by subbing in the player they already have on a contract.
I mean, we know they're not going to win anything, but they do actually, to this point, still have a legit chance at making champs. So you might as well at least go for it. I mean, they're in 7th place right now, so they do have a legit chance to make champs.
Yeah, that's probably why they're not making the move as of yet, even though I don't think, Flames is that much worse than Assault at this point.
It's also unbelievable. I'm looking at the standings right now, and Seattle Surge, just based on tiebreaker, is still holding on to the 8th spot. That is just so unbelievable to me.
Jeez, they've been so bad.
They've been so bad for so long, but just because of some decent online wins in stage 1 and then a decent placing and everybody else being so bad, they've been able to just cling on to 8th. It's probably going to change pretty quickly because Miami's tied with them. Carolina's only 5 points behind, and then LAT is only 10 points behind. Even Boston's only 30. So it's probably going to change quick, but the fact that Seattle's still hanging on to a champ spot is insane right now.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of Seattle, on Sunday, they were able to take out Carolina. Brock, Carolina, again, one of those teams that why was Gunless not picked up? Why was one of these flex players and challengers not picked up?
Yep.
This series overall, they rolled KD wise. Like they had the kills and damage and everything on their side, but Surge were able to take out 2 search and destroys, which helped them win this series. So Surge finally do get a win on the board, but Carolina, just continue their online woes. They coming up this week, they also do get a chance to play. Where is it here? They get a chance to play. I can't find the match now. They play New York, but then they also play LAG. So they had a chance between LAG and Seattle, and then New York to obviously start like 2-1 and have a nice start and chance to get winners bracket again. And they just blow their chance by losing to Seattle.
Yep, but the same old stuff for Carolina. If their goal at this point is to get like 2 wins in the qualifiers, so they're so bad at them, and go to LAN and place good.
Yeah. Then our next match, Brock, Joe Thieves, our boy. We've been calling for him to get put in for Afro for so long. We said when he was dropped, it should have been Afro and not him. We like Joe. Joe proved us right. Dropping a 1.24, 17,000 damage. LA Thieves, 50-point club. Vegas Legion in the first map, and they're able to take it 3-2 in a match really between what I view as our 5 and 6 teams right now. And Joe Thieves, the man, the myth, the legend, we've been saying, super good player. It was also nice to hear he kind of did talk about he had some maybe confidence issues after his previous stint. So it was nice to hear him talk about that and kind of open up about how some struggles on LAG and stuff last year maybe hurt his confidence, but hopefully he's able to get that back and continue to play well, because I like to see this LA Thieves team playing well. They are one of those teams that I feel like can be our 5-6 upset potential teams with Vegas and maybe Minnesota.
Agree. Love it out of Joe and the crew.
All right, Brock. And then our last match of the weekend, OpTic Texas versus Atlanta Faze. At the major, it was kind of interesting because like a lot of people, like Hecz even was saying, it seemed like OpTic played the better COD but lost and were outslayed. This weekend, it's a 3-1 Faze, but if you watch the series,
They're
OpTic probably should have
close.
3-0'd them.
Mm-hmm.
OpTic wins the 6-star hardpoint, 250 to 207 behind a very good map out of Dashi, 33 and 21 with almost 6k damage. Map 2 on High Rise, they're up 4-1 and then lose 5 straight rounds. Shotzzy was really, really, really playing well that map. And then the map 3, Shotzzy just like pushes off the point for no reason when he probably has the cap and dies. And then they end up losing that round, like up like 12-6 on lives and throw away the map 3. And then they lose a Rio 250 to 241. It's like OpTic's lost in every way possible. They've gotten blown out by Faze, and then they played it close, and then they lose even though they're probably playing the better COD. They just get outslayed. And then today they're like outslaying and seem to be almost like the better team in every map and just find a way to blow 2 straight maps and then lose a close map 4. Like OpTic should have won this 3-0 and they end up losing 3-1. Just Faze has their number. That's all you can say right now. Faze owns them in this game right now.
Yeah, just the clutch moments. Map 2 and 3. And I will say is...
What are you going to say?
I'll say, map. I watched map 4 Rio. If OpTic doesn't go down by 100, they definitely win that right off the bat.
Yeah. The funny thing is, like, you picked OpTic 3-2 when you sent me your picks for me to talk about those in the podcast quick, and I said I'm picking Faze 3-2 because just like OpTic and Vanguard, I refuse to pick Faze over them until I see them beat them because OpTic just owned them so bad in that game. And I said the same thing this one. I'm like, I don't care. Even if OpTic looks like the better team, I'm just going to pick Faze blindly until either OpTic looks insanely better and Faze is struggling, or until Faze loses them because they just own them right now. And then the series played out exactly how I said that pick because OpTic were the better team and they looked like the better team. And then Faze just iced up and OpTic just choked so many situations. So like, it's like OpTic's making progress. They're finding every way to lose to Faze while playing better, outslayed, then outslaying them, like having all the winnables, and Faze just keeps beating them. So right now, until further notice, Faze just owns OpTic.
Yep. They find every way, like you said, every way possible to lose just until the champs and they'll actually win it.
You think so?
Yeah. That's the way it's going right now.
I guess. Or I think I saw they only play them in one more online qualifier match. In Major 4, they do play them one more time, and then there's probably a pretty good chance, just with the way our league is and the way the top 4 are, there's probably a pretty good chance OpTic and Faze will play at least one more time on LAN, whether it's Major 3, Major 4, or Champs. I mean, they'll obviously both be at Champs, so they have 3 more LANs that they could potentially play each other at, and I just got to believe they probably will match up at least one time, just with both of them bound to be in the top 4 probably in every tournament.
Yep.
All right, Brock, let's do predictions. Let's wrap this thing up.
I was going to say before we go get a prediction, say it's so fun watching these top 4 teams play each other. It's so fun to watch.
Especially on the bang-out maps that are added now with Rio and 6-star and Vista.
Yep, I love it.
Brock, we have some big news in terms of predictions. So I did end up blowing you out in Major 2, let's be honest. You had a -4 week. It was the first negative week of the year. Granted, it didn't really reflect showing your picks were bad because you were picking a lot of opposite picks of me just to try to make up points. So we'll give you a pass. I'm up 2-0. The Major 1 was close. I won 40 to 35. Last Major, it was 65 to 34.
Jeez.
This Major, though, week 1, you outscored me 13 to 9. It is the first time you have a lead or we're tied all this year. So I had a 1-point lead after week 1 of the entire season, and then you tied it up in week 2, and then since then, from week 3 of Major 1 on, I've had the lead outright every single week and haven't given it back. And now this is the first time you have the lead in a stage all year.
We got big right now.
You're up 13 to 9 after last week. You actually had a perfect Saturday. You got every series right, including map count, which sounds like, okay, maybe they were easier series. Like the Toronto LAG one, obviously the 3-0, pretty easy. But you picked Miami 3-2 over Boston, which I don't feel like a lot of people did. And then you picked New York over Minnesota. I'm assuming pretty much everybody did. But, it's not always easy to get the map count right. So impressive day from you to get all 3 right, including map counts. And that finally, for the first time, like ever, pretty much gives me veto advantage on the 4 points. So doing the same thing as always, we're picking the winner and the map count and then putting a point value. Either 1 or 2 points, we're betting on it. We lose those if we get it wrong, or we gain them if we get it right. If we get the map count right with the winner, get an extra point, and we can each put 4 points on 1 match. So this week we got 3 matches each day. Finally, not another two match Friday. Carolina Royal Ravens versus the New York Subliners in match 1, Brock. I mean,
Ew.
I'm going to go NYSL 3-0, assuming you're probably going to do the same.
Yep.
I'm trying to look at the rest of the matches to see if there's any other ones I want to put 4 points on, because this isn't a pretty obvious candidate, I would say.
That might be the one.
I mean, shoot, both NYSL matches are pretty good candidates for 4-pointers this weekend.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I'm going to put 2. I'm going to leave this one out there for you if you want it. I'm putting an NYSL 3-0 and I'm putting 2 points on it.
I will take the NYSL 3-0 Carolina 4 points.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I mean, there's a couple other candidates. This next match, once again, we can probably speed run through this day. I mean, this is a bad day of matches.
Ew.
We got Seattle versus Texas. I'm going to say it's another OpTic 3-0. I feel like there's a world where OpTic kind of tests out the map pool, and Seattle looked decent on 6-star. So I don't want to put my 4 points on this one either. I'm going to say OpTic 3-0, put 2 points on it, because I think OpTic could get a little weird and test some maps out, and it could get a little hairy. So I will say just an OpTic 3-0, put 2 points on it. But yeah, another 4-point candidate for sure that I'm not going to go with it, though.
I will give... I'll do Texas 3-1. I think they give them a map, and I'll put 2 points on it.
All right, and then we can just speed run through the last match of the day. It's Toronto, it's Miami. I think it's a 3-0 again. I think Toronto 3-0 here, and I'm going to put my 4 points on this one, just because, I don't know, Toronto doesn't seem to lose to the bad teams or even give them any hope ever. Scrap seems to just enjoy slamming them. I'm putting my 4 points on this one, but the Fridays have been so bad. They've been basically all 3-0s when they put the 2 matches on them, and now they give us 3, but I would be pretty shocked to see much more than maybe a 1-game 4. Unless the top teams are really testing out their map pool. I mean, you've got NYSL, OpTic, and Toronto, 3 of our, really our 2 through 4 teams behind Faze against Carolina, Seattle, and Miami, potentially our bottom 3 teams.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
This should be a speed run, maybe a map 4 in one of the series, but probably a 9-0 map count day for the top 4.
Yeah, I'll give Miami the loss here, not the win. I'll give Toronto 3-0, 2 points.
Yeah, easy day of predictions there. Not really much analysis to go into it, because I mean, let's be honest, who isn't picking those matches? We got a little bit of improvement on Saturday, I guess. I feel like the middle match on Saturday is decent, but once again, kind of some lopsided matches. LAT, Miami did look improved. However, I just think LAT probably going to be able to handle them. I think maybe LAT gives up a map. I'm taking LAT 3-1, putting 2 points on it. I'm
going to go LAT 3-2 in the game 5, and they ice up with 2 points.
Okay, I like it. I feel like that could be more of a toss-up series. I guess maybe you could say this series could get interesting. I think something interesting to note for OpTic this weekend is they do get Seattle with a pretty much new roster. You've only seen one match of 0-4, but then also in their second match, if the ASIM move does come to fruition, as of the point of when we started recording, it hasn't actually technically been made official that ASIM is coming into the roster, but we're assuming he is based on the rumors. So OpTic, once again, they basically have to play a new roster in Seattle that they don't have much film on, and then they have to play a completely new team in Las Vegas. They'll be the first team to face ASIM with the squad. So could be an interesting wrinkle there that maybe makes the series a little more interesting than expected. I don't think it's going to make it interesting enough to go game 5, but I do think the Las Vegas Legion are going to take the search and destroy off OpTic, and OpTic's going to win 3 respawns. So I'm taking OpTic 3-1, putting 2 points on it.
Man. I don't want to copy you here, but I'm going to copy you.
It's hard not to. It's with at least maybe you can switch up map counts, but especially for these matches for pretty much this entire weekend, it's hard not to pick the same team for a lot of these.
Yeah. I'll pick 3-1 Texas, 2 points. But, if they're playing on London Docks and attached runs through artillery again, then I'll pick Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, cruise missiles. I mean, unless it's, oh my God, did you just see Krebs' streak on 6-star?
Yeah, he couldn't even do anything about it. Hit the building instantly.
Yeah, it takes place in Dubai, so they've got the world's tallest building there, and he called it in and it just instantly hit that building that's like above the map. So you're like, okay, well, I guess I'm not calling that streak in. That's a funny glitch that has to be fixed. But it was just very funny when it happened. his teammates are probably like, "What the hell are you doing? Like, what was that streak? How did it just instantly blow up?" And he's like, "No, dude, I ran into a building." And then they probably like, "What? You ran into a building?" Like,
Tall
it's like that's gotta be a
building.
funny community. That's gotta be like if that happened in rank play, that would just be like funny just to like hear the comms.
Yep. For the, just should see what the comms sounded like at that point in
Yeah,
time.
yeah. I haven't heard a clip, but if there's one out there, I would like to see that.
Yep.
Um, yeah, it's tough though. We're pretty much gonna have a lot of the same predictions because once again, on Friday you've got 3 top 4 teams playing bottom teams, and then even on Saturday you've got again 2 of the top 4 teams playing, and unless they're playing each other, it's pretty much impossible to ever predict the top 4 teams to lose to anyone because they just dominate.
Hmm.
CDL is so top heavy this year. And we got another one of those matches in the last slot. It's NYSL, it's Seattle, it's another 3-0 to NYSL. And I'm putting 2 points on it. Again, it's kind of funny. I've gone 4 3-0s, and I probably could have really gone 5 at least with the OpTic series.
Yeah. I'm going to go 3-0. NMSL is a team that, they play a bad team, they're stopping them.
Yeah, they tend to do that. Ever since their major one loss to Carolina, they seem to do that pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Sunday, Brock.
What a
I mean, a more
match.
even match here. Carolina versus LAG. It's not good teams, but it's more of even matchup. I think this one is going to go map 5, but I think, Gwyn and the boys, Carolina, are going to be able to pull it off 3-2, putting 2 points on this one as well. I'm just sending it 2 and 4 points all week.
I'm going to go opposite of you. This LAG 3-2 with 2 points. I have faith in Diamondcon, Estriel, and Fame.
Not Assault.
Not Assault. I just, Carolina's so bad online.
It's true. I don't have much confidence picking them, but I don't know how you can have a lot of confidence in either of these teams, to be fair.
Yeah, I'm just, flipping a coin, really.
Yeah, really what you're doing. Speaking of coin flips, this one seems like a bit of a coin flip too. And actually, if you'll remember, Brock, this match is one I'm intrigued for. Beans and Gunless have had a little beef dating back to last year.
Yeah.
Remember when Gunless or when Beans shot those 2 guys in the back? I believe it was on a hotel when he was like looking I was about to say P5, but I'm pretty sure it was P6.
Yes.
As weird as that sounds. Beans shot those 2 guys in the back, like 2 free kills, and he like screamed like dead, like pissed on or something.
I remember.
And Gunless is like, did I really just hear Beans like scream that he was like destroying in the match when he just shot 2 guys in the back? And then they kind of went at it about their comms. And even like Boston's owner got involved and like said like pay no mind to him, like he's not in the league, you are. And like Boston's owner was like talking trash to Gunless. It was kind of a crazy interaction. They talked trash to each other. I don't know if they ever really squashed that beef, but now they're playing in the league. Didn't know if we'd ever see it because Beans being dropped, Gunless not making it back to start the year. Didn't know if we'd ever see the matchup, but it's Beans, it's Gunless. Shout out to the COD gods for giving us this matchup. I'm riding with my boy Gunless. Everybody knows I'm a pretty big fan. I'm going Minnesota to win this series 3-2. I don't feel very confident, so I'm actually only going to put 1 point on this, but I'm very excited. Besides the last match of Sunday, this is the match I'm most excited for just because of that grudge match. And I also think like Boston and Minnesota are 2 teams that I want to see how their rosters are shaking out because of the 2 teams that made a two-man change. And I do think they both have very, very, very good chances to be at champs. I still think this Boston roster is just going to put together like some decent online wins and a couple top 6s and probably squeak into that 8th spot maybe. And I do think Minnesota will plant themselves somewhere between 5 to 8 and also make champs. So I'm very intrigued to watch this matchup and just see how it plays out with these 2 teams that are trying to figure out their rosters.
Agreed. I'm also gonna ride with you and with Gunless as well, but I'm gonna do a 3-1, and I'll put 2 points on it.
I like it. Right with our boy Gunless.
Boston takes the control, and then Minnesota gets a hard point win.
Okay. All right, last match of the weekend, a really good one, a banger. It's Atlanta.
Ooh.
It's Toronto. Easily the best match of the weekend, just the only match where 2 of our top 4 teams are playing. And it's, Toronto, the clear best team of stage 1, Atlanta, the clear best team of stage 2. I think Atlanta wins this one in a 3-2. Hard for me to pick against Atlanta right now. I'm only going to put 1 point on it because, once again, this is a little bit of a toss-up matchup. But Atlanta 3-2, I don't know. I just hard for me to pick against them right now because they are far and away the best team, although Toronto certainly has a chance to pull off an upset here because they're also extremely good. And I do think that, like, of our other top teams, Toronto, I trust to play the most consistent. OpTic can have their ups and downs. New York can even have their ups and downs, but Toronto is the most consistent of the top 4 teams not named Faze. So I do think they have a very good chance to win this one. However, hard for me to pick against Faze right now, just playing so well. So I'm picking them 3-2, putting 1 point on it.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go the opposite way of you and pick Toronto 3-2.
Okay.
And I'll put 1 point on it as well. Bang out series, two top
Yeah.
teams, love it.
I would like to see like a Vista and Rio Hardpoint, please. Faze in Toronto. Let's let those through. Maybe let like what's the most bang out control? Maybe a Karachi control through.
Yeah.
I would like to see that. I also, the funny thing that happened this weekend, Assault uh, on one of the high rise controls, the propane tank on A blew up. He got 3 kills in a team kill, and I think I saw like our boy Jake Maverick, who shout out to Jake Maverick. We've been talking to him a lot on Twitter and stuff. Kind of making a new friend of the community with him. He's a cool dude, so go check out his channel if you haven't. But I think I saw it was him that tweeted like that propane blowing up and killing like 3 people was 19% or 20% of Assault's kills on that map, which is like luckily the propane blowing up and getting a 3-piece. I thought that was hilarious. And like a fifth of his kills came from just the propane luckily blowing up and getting a 3-piece.
Man, I'm not shocked at all.
I just thought that was a very funny stat.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very, very, very much looking forward to this series because it should be an absolute excellent one. That's gonna do it though, Brock. Unless you've got anything else you want to discuss here.
Not really. Excited to see some of these matches play out, and excited to play some ranked play.
Yeah. Excited to learn the new maps more. If you guys enjoyed this one, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Shout out to you guys once again for helping us hit 1,300. Now we're on the road to 1,400 and so on. If you're on the audio platforms, drop a follow, drop a 5-star review. We appreciate all the support as always, and we will see you in the next one.